The only reason I know Roman numerals is
Uh-huh.
because of the Super
Because
Bowl.
of Super Bowl makes it
That's right.
official.
hmm We're officially going live now.
You got a team, here's a word to the wise. You want to dominate your league? Go to Football Guys.
Football, I'm living in a fantasy. Football, got everybody mad at me. Football, cause every game I had to win. Football, I gotta be a champion. Football, I'm living in a fantasy.
You have got to be a champion, and the Eagles and Chiefs are trying to get their championship game on, and we are here to talk about it. The Super Bowl, it's here, Bloom, and it's here
Yeah.
with a couple of teams where it seems like around these parts, before we jump into the game, let's just talk generalities.
Sure. Yeah.
Around these parts, there's a lot of Eagles fans now here in Broncos country, because even Sean Payton said we don't want to see someone from our division win anything. But it seems like I don't know. I've seen some maps, right? Everyone has maps. America's split. Is it Eagles or is it Chiefs? Who do they want to win?
Yeah. It's interesting. The Chiefs, in some ways, see this as a throwback. When was the last time we had the 2 number 1 seeds in the Super Bowl? I can't even remember.
It's been a minute. Yeah.
It's been a little while since we had the playoff format change, adding a little bit more chaos. And with Kansas City, I know I'm not going to use the D word, not going to use it, but this is a level of sustained excellence, and it really even transcends Patrick Mahomes. But because of that, familiarity breeds contempt, right? Seeing them in the Super Bowl and the AFC Championship certainly makes a bit of an itch for something different. And you have Philadelphia. And even though we're talking about Philadelphia and Kansas City as the 2-1 seeds, let's remember, if we go back to about this time last year, February, the Eagles were a pretty long shot to go to the Super Bowl. They were not considered one of the favorites. They were not considered even a favorite in their division. So they've made quite a journey. The question is, and this is San Francisco, right? San Francisco's over here saying, Kansas City's going to smoke them. I mean, that's sour grapes, maybe.
Yeah, didn't Brandon Ayuk say that? Like, I'm going to take all my money and I'm going to put it on Kansas City.
Right. This idea that, Philadelphia, for some of these players, because this is the Kelce Bowl. Is that the official theme of this game, Cease? The Kelce Bowl?
Yeah,
brothers?
It should be the Kelce Bowl, right?
Right. Well, just to remember both of these unforgettable players in a moment and that they can bask in. But I think that framing this game, this is a test for Philadelphia. I don't think that this is something that they've had to deal with. In some ways, they would have been better off having a closer game in an NFC title game, and Brock Purdy had stayed healthy, or Josh Johnson had found the game of his life, because it would have got that adrenaline flowing that I don't think they've had. And that is something I think that they're going to find out right away, that on this stage, especially for Jalen Hurts, everything's different.
Everything's different. And on this stage, let's talk about Jalen Hurts again before we get in the game. Rewind a year ago, before they got A.J. Brown, and there were plenty of questions on whether or not they were going to take a quarterback, whether or not, was Jalen Hurts really the guy? Are they wasting their time? And it's on Hurts. And this is the great thing about evaluation time, right, Bloom? I've been to the Shrine Bowl and the Senior Bowl. And yes, we will be doing Shrine Bowl and Senior Bowl shows probably next week sometime. Yes, I will talk about Sean Payton and meeting him and blah, 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 blah. But during this time, I always say, this is who a player is now. With development, this is who he could be. Well, Jalen Hurts, because everyone's caught in the moment, Bloom. I think it's just a plague of our society of it's now, it's right now. Patience required for a lot of these players. And then two, Jalen Hurts developed. It was the arrival of A.J. Brown. It was him getting better, but he's not the same guy he used to be. And, people always want to categorize or put people in boxes like, this is what Jalen Hurts is. No, we got to see Jalen Hurts do more. Now he needs to really do more in this game.
Yeah, I think we can talk about quarterback development and our perception of quarterback development. And Cecil creates this loop, this feedback loop, right? Because we are so impatient, or because we think that whatever a quarterback is born into in terms of their ability in their first year or first 2 years, that's what they're going to be for their whole career. And because of that, we can steer. And Zach Wilson is an interesting example of how would Zach Wilson have been developed, how would his career be going 2 years in if he had come into the league 30 years ago, 35 years ago? And I think you're right that Jalen Hurts stands for the principle that quarterbacks can improve, quarterbacks can develop. And it's been a while since we've had one of the Patrick Mahomes comes on the scene and it's pretty much that guy from day one of his second year. And I think that even Josh Allen, we have forgotten that for 2 years, a lot of people said he's never going to be anything more than this. So I think that also going back again to Philadelphia and where we perceived them at this time last year. So you look at some of these young developing quarterbacks, there's plenty of them around the league, and all these teams can dream big next year. It doesn't necessarily take as long for a quarterback to bring their game up to the level where they can elevate their teammates' game. And again, last year at this time, Philadelphia had been drummed from the playoffs by Tampa Bay in a very predictable result. We know they were not perceived to be on the level of the actual Super Bowl contenders. And here we are.
Yeah, and here we are. And you mentioned that about, Jalen Hurts, let's get this thing developed and let's get this thing going, because I'm just thinking of Howie Roseman. It's Super Bowl week, so you're seeing some people run into Howie Roseman media night or whatever. And I'm like, Howie, one, he's addicted to trading. Two, he is not afraid to scrap bad ideas and move on. He's not afraid to try anything. And then also, if something doesn't work, he washes it away. Or if something's not working during the season, look at the transactions they did during the year, Bloom, when they're like, we suck against the run. Let's go add some guys to stuff the run. So, and we'll get to plenty of Chiefs talk. KC fans, don't worry. It's not just because you don't like me and I don't like you. It's no, let's talk about Howie and just like I don't even want to call it new way of thinking, but the NFL is so damn old and tired and kind of stuck in certain mindsets. Guy like Howie Roseman's like, this works. Let's keep doing this. This doesn't work. Get rid of it now. Stop overpaying and stop wasting time.
And we can bring in fantasy football here, right? Isn't Howie Roseman the closest of the 32 GMs to a fantasy football GM? Really?
I think so, right?
I think so. Because he's always looking for ways to improve. And I think one of the things that we have to understand, and maybe this is about relationships that we don't get to see peeking through the keyhole, but he's aware of what's going on around the league, right? AJ Brown is a good situation to discuss where, we saw Tyreek Hill, we saw Devontae Adams, we saw these situations play out, and we knew that Tennessee was reluctant to give AJ Brown that same kind of treatment, and they swooped in and got that. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson down here in New Orleans is another good example, CD Deuce, where you're seeing now this understanding that, hey, if a player is entering their last year of the rookie contract, and we know they're going to get paid, and we know that we're not going to be the ones that pay them, we're not going to tag them. We're not going to just play it out and let them go and get a third or fourth round compensatory pick. Let's try to get trade value before their contract is up. And you see the difference. CD Deuce has been one of those players that has given this Eagles defense an identity, given them that spark. And then, like you said, actually, why is it so rare, Cease? Why is it so rare for a GM during the season to make a trade? It happens in all the other sports.
All right.
In all the other sports, you look at your weaknesses. You say, we want to make a run. It's the hockey deadline's coming up. Talking with our man, pot stoner degenerate Jason. Pens won last night over the Lanch. And you do something just like fantasy football. You look at your lineup. You see where the weakness is. You pull from your assets. You figure out a way to improve your team. And Howie Roseman, it might seem simple, but like you said, the NFL is so old school. See, we started the show long enough that back when we started the show, just trades, period. Trades were rare. When there was a trade, ooh, a trade. So things can change.
Yeah, I think it's the human condition, Bloom. We're about ready to get crunchy on this show, baby.
Always, every day.
Oh, yes, every day. Where's our Vic Fangio?
Where is he? Yeah.
Jason's so happy. He's like, we got every day. We got Shrine Game, Senior Bowl ripping. Oh, we got the water pipe overflowing. I think this. I look at it and I go, you know what? This was such a a great time to be alive and a football fan, because you are seeing these transactions, you are seeing more people, and I think the human condition, Bloom, back to my original point, is that people don't want to admit they're wrong. So as a GM, and I may, how much can I say? I may
It's
or may
okay.
not be talking about a situation I'm very familiar with, but there's GMs that are so afraid to admit they were wrong. They don't do the right thing and wash it away until someone above them comes in and says, "What the hell are you doing?"
Right.
Again, take that as a lassie bark if you want, but like, I think people just don't want to admit they're wrong. So a lot of GMs are just like, and you get there because of nepotism. You get there because of the good old boy network. And when you get there, and then you just want to stay there because you worked so hard or got so many doors open for you just because to get there. So there's a lot of things backwards in this league. It's refreshing when someone like Howie can be like, this doesn't work. Like, move on. And, I want to praise that.
Yeah. And I think that we can actually give credit to Bill Belichick, right? Wasn't it Bill Belichick, who we think of as old school comes in terms of coaches, or at least what he projects and the way he manages his house, right?
Yeah.
And I can remember that fourth down at his own 30-yard line in the AFC title game with Kevin Falk. And if you understood probabilities in football and you understood you're facing Peyton Manning, then you understood that was the right decision. But all of the years of football lore that came before that said, you never do that. You never go on a fourth down in your own territory in this situation. And it didn't make it. And he took the criticism. And I think that now here we are further down the line. This is really, let's put this all in perspective, memory lane kind of show, trippy, crunchy, to say that now people are saying it's okay to go for it on fourth down in these situations. It's okay to go for two in just a regular game where you just scored a touchdown, go up 13-7. Go for two. It's okay. I remember how Chase Stewart and Morrill had to get like practically a chisel and a hammer to get it through my head. When you're down 15 points, you go for two on the first touchdown. You don't wait until the second touchdown. So we are evolving in data-driven things that then allow us to overcome these old ways, these old prejudices. And in some ways, it gives you cover to say, no, I'm trying this. There's actually good reasons to try it. And I go back to that moment of that fourth down. I think, was it the game we were in Baton Rouge in the Chili's? I think it was. To say, it was around that time, to say it's okay to take risks. And in fact, if you're not taking risks, that's the biggest risk of all.
Was that the Kevin Falk play?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So I really feel like that was a watershed moment. That was a moment when it freed coaches from having to do what everybody else has done before.
Right.
And I even think, Cecil, we can look at the Chiefs trading up to get Patrick Mahomes when they had Alex Smith. In previous iterations of the NFL, you would never get a trade up in the first round.
16 spots.
Right. Now, that being said, and there's been some good discussion about this over in Base Camp, we forget because there's a question here about the Bears, right? I mean, we're jumping between a lot of different topics.
Well, the Bears should be considering Bryce Young. Like, there's no doubt about it. Like, I think it's ridiculous when people are shutting that off. Like, oh, they have Justin Fields. Justin Fields doesn't prove anything.
Right.
Bryce Young is that dude. Like, you have a chance to get that dude.
Yeah, and Adam Harstad, the great Adam Harstad, was brought up in Base Camp that the Cowboys had just taken Troy Aikman number 1, and then they used their supplemental first-round pick for Steve Walsh, and it ended up being another number 1 pick. They used back-to-back number 1 picks on quarterbacks, number 1 overall picks on quarterbacks. Yeah. Did that turn out okay? I think it did.
I think they're fine. Yeah. I think they're fine. Like Mike Shanahan took Kirk Cousins because he really wanted to, and Dan Snyder wanted Robert Griffin III. And, it's like you have to. You're in that position. Yeah. Like, so, and I don't necessarily trust the Bears to do the right thing by Justin Fields, but like, he's not the passer, and I don't think he can ever be the passer that Bryce Young is. So yeah, we're floating around a little bit. It's Super Bowl, baby. You've thought about this matchup. You've dreamed about the Andy Reid Bowl. Reid Bowl?
Yeah.
Reid Bowl? Yeah. Okay, Reid Bowl. Have I given you my hot Bills take? I don't think I have. If I have, please stop me.
Go ahead.
We'll just move
don't
on.
leave
Fire
us
Sean
in
McDermott.
suspense. Yeah, well, that's
Fire
the
Sean
Ty Dunn
McDermott.
take. Yeah. Well, I don't know if Ty Dunn would say to fire Sean McDermott, but
Well, you're
maybe
wasting your time. He's like John Fox. Like when Foxy could get you so far,
right.
It's like you can't get over the top. And with McDermott, like, here's what the Bills are going to do. And I love the Bills. My best friend's a Bills fan. I'd love nothing more than the Buffalo Bills to win a Super Bowl. But here's what they're going to do. I've seen the future, Bloom. Mark it down. February 8th, 2023. The Bills are going to win a bunch of games, go to the playoffs, and fall short. They will not even make the Super Bowl again because of Sean McDermott.
Yeah.
So there you go.
And to keep it thematic, Cease, I think everything we were just talking about is the blind spot for Sean McDermott, which is being stuck in the limitations or bounds of what has come before, or the kinds of decisions or kind of approaches that have come before. And maybe something we talked about before the show, maybe we could get Sean McDermott on a plane out to Colorado. There's some different kinds of therapy with some different psychoactive substances. You can create new connections, new ways of looking at things. You can approach topics that are emotionally radioactive for you, and they become something you can approach with an open heart and not shut down. Because I think for the Bills, for Sean McDermott, it's going in the wrong direction. So you're right. It's about risk taking. It's about not being stuck in what has come before. It's about not appealing to the invisible observer or the critic. That's what are they going to say if this doesn't work? And I hope that we get to talk about the Bills in one of these Super Bowl preview shows one of these years.
Yeah, it would be nice. But instead, it's Kansas City and it's Philadelphia. And we just talk about the whole game on its own. Like the Pat Mahomes thing, working through that injury, just another notch in the legend, right?
Yeah.
The legend of Pat Mahomes. And that's an injury that knocks people out a month. It's a high ankle sprain. It's a broken leg. It's a small fracture in your shin, basically. So like, hey, he's dealing with a high ankle sprain. And whereas the Chiefs have gone through the crucible, the Eagles have not. And that's the biggest thing of like, I don't think this will be a blowout. I'm not going to tell you yet who I think will win, although Sean Payton might be disappointed in me when I tell you. But like, if I just look at who's battle tested to this point, it's clearly the Chiefs. And they've been there so many times, they won't be happy to be there. So that experience, the battle tested that they've gone through in the postseason, like these are all leaning towards a strong performance on Super Bowl Sunday from Kansas City.
Yeah, that's the thing. This is all very familiar. We did see one poor performance in the Super Bowl whenever they didn't have an offensive line, basically. And Tampa Bay had the players to take advantage of that. But you're not going to see that. On the Kansas City side, again, we just have to praise it's Patrick Mahomes. Really, it is Patrick Mahomes. Now, 2 years in a row, we've seen him evolve during the season. First, it was whenever teams were playing cover 2. And this year, it was not just without Tyreek Hill, but without anybody who really not replaced Tyreek Hill, because you don't do that, but just somebody week in, week out he could count on. Like on 3rd and 7, who's your first read? Who you're going to count on to get open early in a progression? Or even who are the players that are on the same page with you when the play breaks down, right? He's been working through all that. Travis Kelce can only do so much. We've seen Isaiah Pacheco emerge, and something like a conventional running game, which I think has been another sign of evolution.
Hint, Buffalo.
Well, yeah. So on offense, Philadelphia is stacked all 3 levels of their defense. But you do have that way that Patrick Mahomes makes things asymmetrical whenever the play breaks down. And you saw that he didn't move quite as steady. He couldn't drive the ball as well as he normally does against Cincinnati, but he evolves. Patrick Mahomes just has that ability to know exactly where is the limit of his abilities. And if his limit of his abilities change, he can change with that. Now, you do have players on the Philadelphia side. And by the way, let's not forget, because I brought it up, Cease, that Kansas City has successfully rebuilt their offensive line on the fly, right? They've stayed at this level, and they've been able to do this. On Philadelphia, again, you're going to individual players. And Brandon Graham, he's been there, right? You have players that have been there, and then you have some of the new guard, Josh Sweat, Hassan Reddick. That's a great Philadelphia story there. The pass rush, Hassan Reddick, obviously the most important player in the NFC title game. Yeah, it's fair. I mean, when he knocks out Brock Purdy, it changes the entire complexion of the game. So can they make similar kind of impact plays? You also have in the secondary, don't forget Darius Slay still plays for this team. He's pretty good. James Bradbury. I mentioned CD Deuce. They have some players in the secondary that maybe can make a game-turning play. But on the Philadelphia side, I hate to say this because it's not going to be great for entertainment, but isn't the best game plan for the Eagles to run the ball about 40 or 45 times in this game?
Yeah, and all three of their backs, how about each one of them get 15 carries?
Sure.
They have the capability, because here's the thing, like, I think you can scare Kansas City, and I'm not saying fears and they're afraid, but I'm thinking like from a game plan standpoint. We've seen it with Andy Reid.
Mm-hmm.
Andy Reid is his own kryptonite. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so he's looking, got the menu. Where's my clipboard? Right here. He's got the menu. He's like, you get in his head, man. You make him get in his head. And how do you do it? Not only run the ball to football 101, keep him cold on the sidelines, but you run that ball to put the fear in, the clock in, like, they're just using all this time. Like you make Andy Reid beat himself. Basically. So be solid in what you do, take care of the football, get turnovers if you can, turn them into points if you can. But for me, you'll be shocked to know, Bloom, that the guy who loves running the ball wants the Eagles to run the hell out of the ball, and for different reasons than you would normally do when you go up against a high-powered offense. This is basically to make Andy Reid, maybe a little flustered.
Sure. And the defense too, because what did we see last week from the San Francisco defense? Because one of the reasons I picked San Francisco, a lot of people picked San Francisco, is because the San Francisco defense this year, when it was aligned, when it was clicking, was a Super Bowl winning level defense at its best. And you thought, hey, this is a test that Jalen Hurts hasn't had before. And the offense just needs to be competent. The offense just needs to execute. And the defense, Nick Bosa, probably be defensive player of the year, right? Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw, right? Charvarius Ward, former Chief. They have some players that can make those plays, or at the very least take away some of the things that you're comfortable doing. And what happened when the Eagles were just successful running the ball? When Miles Sanders scores it's one thing whenever you score it, you give up a touchdown on the ground. It's another thing when you give up a touchdown on the ground and you don't even touch the ball carrier. You don't even touch him. You don't even get to smell the cologne he's wearing that day. And it happened twice in the first half. That's demoralizing. And what did you see from this 49ers defense? Frustration, penalties, lack of composure. And I think that is why not just Andy Reid, but the Kansas City defense can get impatient. And you also take away the impact of some of these players, like we saw Chris Jones, probably the MVP. Chris Jones, the MVP. Can we just get some love for the defense? Right? I think Chris Jones was the MVP of the AFC title game. I think absolutely he was the MVP of that game. And we remember there's always cited that Patrick Mahomes hasn't lost in regulation in the playoffs, or in Kansas City in the play or something like that. And when they lost in the AFC title game to Tom Brady, Chris Jones went out in that game, right, I believe, right before overtime in the fourth quarter. So it shows you how important he is as a player. So I think on the Philadelphia side, you almost want Jalen Hurts to have about as many rush attempts as pass attempts in this game. And then, like you said, let's give the other running backs, 30, 35 attempts on their own, and just grind out long drives, and then pick your spots for shot plays to A.J. Brown, who's hopefully healthier, and maybe the Slim Reaper is and Dallas Goedert. You want to find which one of these matchups is going to work for the Eagles passing game. L'Jarius Sneed should be back. He's a big time player. We can say, hey, the Bengals won. The Bengals kept it close without a lot of their starting offensive line. Kansas City lost L'Jarius Sneed during that game, and he's their best defensive player other than Chris Jones. And certainly the way they've been playing L'Jarius Sneed in that kind of a role where he can affect plays. He's not just stuck on one side of the field or stuck in one role. Getting him back is going to be big. I think that Kansas City sees Kansas City can go into this game and say, well, let's see what's working. Let's see what Philadelphia knew. This is comfortable. We can do this however this game is going to unfold. Remember, San Francisco was the better team than Kansas City for most of that game, right? San Francisco, Kyle Shanahan had a better game plan. They were executing better. And Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill said, well, we're still going to make this our game.
And Jimmy Garoppolo said, I can't hit Emmanuel Sanders.
I can't hit Emmanuel Sanders. Oh, man. It hurts. It hurts. And Philadelphia, I think, has to come in with the game plan and put their stamp on the game right away. I don't think Philadelphia can need some time to warm up or take a few shots like a good old prize fight for the belt and then understand. I think it will be very difficult for them because of how easy it has been for them to get here. And I think that sometimes we see teams that it's easy for them to get to the Super Bowl in the postseason because they're just that good. And like Brandon Ayuk said, basically, I wouldn't put Philadelphia on that level yet. Do they understand that? They're going to find out really quickly.
Well, I am always living in the past, although I have advised Broncos fans to stop talking about Super Bowl 50, although yesterday was the anniversary. 7 years, long time. But Carolina killed everybody that year. What were they, like 14-2? Like they crushed they were just killing just slaughter everybody. And you got to that Super Bowl and, well, you got out physicaled. Can Philadelphia out physical Kansas City? Now they're going to fight back with your Chris Joneses. He'll respond to physicality. Isaiah Pacheco will respond to physicality. Travis Kelce will respond to physicality. And what we're watching with Travis Kelce, people always say greatest of all time. We're just, celebrating LeBron getting the NBA scoring record. Travis Kelce he's up there. I don't know if I'm ready to call him the greatest tight end of all time, but man alive. And to have Tony Gonzalez and Travis Kelce from the same team like Kansas City, you've seen some good tight ends over the years.
Yeah, and I think if we're talking about Travis Kelce, we are talking about a player that is going to be that player that Patrick Mahomes depends on in key moments. And again, it's on Philadelphia to preemptively figure out a way to take him and Mahomes out of their comfort zone. But I think it's fun to go back and remember the story of Travis Kelce, that year suspension for reasons unknown. He had microfracture surgery very early in his career, which back then was not necessarily a death knell, but something that was a red flag for the rest of a player's career. And as folks have pointed out, Travis Kelce is not an elite athlete, right? I mean, we're looking at models where we plug in the 40 time and we plug in height and weight and we plug in reps on the bar and everything. He does not project out as an elite athlete at the position. He's not Kyle Pitts. He's probably not even Rob Gronkowski as far as pure athleticism, but it is the joy that he plays the game with. It is, like you said, the physicality, but he has been an incredible player to watch unfold as his brother. And let's also give a lot of credit. We mentioned Howie Roseman earlier in the show. It is astounding when you look at the Philadelphia starters and you look how many of those players they drafted. My, oh my, that is unbelievably rare. And I believe, don't quote me on this, that all 22 of their week 1 starters will start in the Super Bowl. So I don't know how much of the training staff plays a part in players' ability to avoid injuries or come back from injuries on a timeline that is reasonable and not get re-injured or have a cascade injury. But that's something a lot of people will say. Sometimes when people want to demystify things, Cecil say, it's just injury luck. It's just injury luck. That's all it is.
Right.
Well, they've had injury luck on their side. We'll see what else they have on their side. It's set up to be an excellent, excellent Super Bowl. And it's going to be one, I think, because of the level these teams played at, that is decided by who exceeds or transcends their previous level instead of who makes a mistake like Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah, speaking of mistakes, I still want Isaiah Pacheco to be Super Bowl MVP so George Payton can be like, oh, don't take any more Samford return men that can't play wide receiver. Like, this is probably
or Jalen Watson. Maybe Jalen Watson could be Super Bowl MVP.
Jalen Watson, too. I mean, my God. You just didn't want any of the good players, George Payton? Like, seriously, you didn't want any good players. Like, Tariq Woolen, no. How about Delarian Turner Yell? Anyway, Anyway, let's pick the game, Bloom.
Yeah.
It's Kansas City. It's Kansas City. And
Yeah.
in this one, like, I don't think the Eagles can go toe to toe with them. I hope they don't think that they can. I hope they try that physical approach, because that would be an incredible test for Kansas City. One that I believe they can stand up to, but it's their most difficult path to victory is through physicality. If you want to get into the shootout 51-50 Sammy Hagar game, like, you're not going to win that against Kansas City. I don't think you can. I don't think you're built that way, but don't get baited into that and thinking you need the big plays if you're Philadelphia. But I've got Kansas City winning this one. My heart says Isaiah Pacheco. My head goes, nah, it's probably going to be Pat Mahomes with the Super Bowl MVP. And let's put the score at this. How about 28-23? Something like that, where it's like, okay, it's close enough. It's a good enough game. We're entertained. And there we go. Super Bowl champions. And now we can bring up the D word of dynasty. If Kansas City gets another one, man, go get another ring. And again, I think this is a memo for the Bills. This is a memo for all of us. Stop wasting time. Like, it's so hard to win a Super Bowl. If you're there, win it.
Yeah.
Because, that's how you are truly separated. We're watching a special player in Pat Mahomes. Get him another ring, man. Don't do this like Aaron Rodgers, where it's like he got one and that's it. Now he's done after his darkness retreat, or whether darkness is. I swear there was a Dave Chappelle skit about that. But anyway, I'm picking Kansas City. How about you, Bloom?
Yeah, I think that watching enough of these games, Super Bowls, experience in a Super Bowl is so important. And experience in a Super Bowl at not just across the roster, but two key points: quarterback and head coach. And that's the other thing, is Nick Sirianni. Remember Sean McVay's first Super Bowl? Nick Sirianni is at a height he hasn't been at before. So you have to pick Kansas City in this one. I do think it's going to be a low-scoring game. Watching Philadelphia's offense against San Francisco, even though they put 31 points on the board, it wasn't like they were humming or clicking. And I think Kansas City's offense without Tyreek Hill is a more deliberate offense. And Philadelphia has a lot of good personnel. But I think you're going to see this game something like 23-13. I don't know that Philadelphia is really going to threaten in this one, unless, like you said, Cease, if you're listening. And by the way, I'm waiting to get a text message back from Arian Foster on what the script is going to be for this one. They haven't handed out the scripts to the players yet.
Right.
He was kidding. He was having fun with you all. Anyway, I think that the Eagles have to come into this game thinking like an underdog, really. Thinking like a team, like you said, Cease, that this might be the one chance that we get, and having an inspired game plan on both offense and defense. What Sean McVay didn't do against New England, right? And that's a lot to ask. But what always delivers, even in this age, Cease, where, oh boy, I don't even want to go off on any number of tangents, but let's just say maybe it's just that we're getting older, but things are different. Maybe not quite as satisfying, or it doesn't quite have that sparkle. The product on the field, the effort, the complete commitment of the players always shines through, and it will again.
Yeah, it will again, and we will be here for you here on the Audible. Now, before we're out of here, we got to remind you about our Footballguys 2023 Rookie Draft Guide. All the edge you need to dominate your dynasty league. It's available at footballguys.com/rookie guide. That's footballguys.com/rookie guide. And that's where you can go. Your dynasty, you're looking to build your dynasty. Footballguys is here to help. Our 2023 Rookie Draft Guide will help you identify the players you need to dominate your dynasty leagues with in-depth statistics, rankings, and expert film-based analysis on 120 NFL prospects. We'll help you discover the sleepers and the stars, the 2023 draft class, and understand the context behind the college production and gain the edge that you need to win. First edition, the Rookie Draft Guide. It's available now, 100% for free. It's packed with information and analysis on 120 NFL draft prospects. So check it out. Download it all. The first edition, 100% free now by going to footballguys.com/rookie guide. That is footballguys.com/rookie guide. And I put the link in our description here as well. So there you go. We will have a news and notes show. I will tell you some of the things I learned from Sean Payton. I will tell you why there was a Shrine Game quarterback that could be the best of the entire class. I'll tell you about that. These are all teases, Bloom. I'll tell you why I found the next Alvin Kamara. Yes, the All-Star road trip. One, it's too much having them both in the same week. I think it's really dumb, and I hope that they change that because it was better when they were separate weeks. So it could be like one trip and then one trip and not 6 states in 6 days like I did to get to both games this year. I'm complaining, Bloom, but it was very, very fruitful. We will have Senior Bowl, Shrine Bowl recap shows. That's coming up next week. We'll have a news and notes show coming up next week. We will have snorkel,
scuba submarine.
Wait, no, snorkel, scuba, submarine.
Mm-hmm.
Snorkel, scuba, submarine. Why do I always mess that up? Snorkel, scuba, submarine. We're going to have that for all your dynasty needs and information. And yeah, man, we're here. It's back, baby. And basically, it's not only to talk football, Bloom, but it's just to hang out with all of our people.
Yeah, exactly. I think that at this point, the real treasure we have here is our community that we get to hang out with and spend time together and exchange how this is all slanting through our brains. It's football. It's never going to stop. And as soon as the Super Bowl is over, we're going to start thinking about franchise tags and transition tags. We're going to start thinking about free agency. Cease, if you want, I know Twitter's not your thing. You can step into any number of debates right now. What should the Bears do about the number 1 pick? Which quarterback should go first? What should the Giants do about Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley? Should the Steelers have kept Matt Canada? It's all raging. It's football. It keeps us engaged. And we love that because it keeps us engaged with each other.
Keeps us engaged with you all. So do all those things. Go forth and be awesome. And be good to everyone. Be kind. All right. So let's get out of here for today. See you all next week. He's Sigmund. I'm Cecil. We are the Audible. Until next time, be safe, be kind. Know that you are appreciated. Stay tuned. And as always, please stay frosty.